picture a scene. It's probably one of the most famous images in Western literature. You have a woman, she's sitting by a window, just staring out at the sea.
In the Mediterranean.
Right. And behind her, there's a loom with this half-finished work on it. And she's been sitting there, more or less, for 20 years. Her husband, Odysseus, went off to war 2 decades ago, and then just nothing.
Vanished. No
Yeah.
letters, no word, no proof of life.
Yeah.
Just silence.
Ah.
And while she's sitting in that silence, the noise around her is getting, well, deafening.
Yeah.
Her palace is overrun with these entitled suitors. They're eating all her food, drinking her wine, and basically telling her every single day, look, face it, he's dead. Marry one of us so we can take over.
Exactly. And the way we usually hear this story, this woman, Penelope, is just the patient wife. She's the prize at the end of the adventure, the symbol of just passive waiting while the man is out having all the adventures.
That's the classic reading, the faithful shadow. But the material we're diving into today just throws that whole idea out the window. The argument is, if you stop reading her as a romance character and start reading her through philosophy, she's not a background player at all.
She becomes the main character.
She becomes maybe the most formidable operator in the entire epic.
That's what totally hooked me on this idea that she isn't just enduring, she's an existential strategist.
I love that phrase, because think about it. Odysseus is out there conquering space. He's fighting monsters, crossing oceans. That's a physical battle. But Penelope, she's fighting a war against time itself.
A war against the collapse of meaning.
And honestly,
Yeah.
that might be the harder war to win.
So today, that's the war we're going to unpack. We're going to look at Penelope through some pretty heavy philosophical lenses. We've got Heidegger, Hannah Arendt, Simone de Beauvoir.
Nietzsche, and even the great Muslim scholar al-Ghazali. It sounds like a lot, I know. But I promise, it paints this picture of her that is just, it's radically empowering. It's like a survival guide for anyone who's ever felt stuck.
Okay, so let's start with her situation in Ithaca. Forget the epic journey for a second. What's the crisis inside her head?
The crisis is the complete suspension of the future. I mean, we need a timeline to function, right? We need to know who we are. Is her husband dead or is he alive?
Those are two totally different realities.
Two different ontological states, yeah. If he's dead, she's a widow. She grieves, she remarries, and life. It moves on. If he's alive, she's a wife who's waiting.
But she's stuck. She's in that gray zone of not knowing.
Exactly. And our brains hate that gray zone. We want closure. Most people, after 20 years of silence, they would collapse that timeline.
Just to have an answer.
Just to have peace. They'd say, okay, he's probably dead. I'll be a widow now. Just to have a defined role again.
Right.
But this is where someone like Martin Heidegger becomes so important. For Heidegger, a human being isn't a thing, like a rock. We're a project. We're defined by our being towards the future. We are literally shaped by what we're waiting for.
So if she decides he's dead, she closes that whole project.
Precisely. And by refusing to make that call, Penelope's doing something incredibly active. She's not saying it's over, but she's also not blindly saying he'll be home tomorrow. She is holding the possibility open.
It's almost like she's in a state of quantum superposition, like Schrodinger's cat.
That's a perfect analogy.
As long as she waits, he's both dead and alive. She's both wife and widow. She refuses to let anyone pin her down.
And living in that state, that huge gaping question mark, that takes a profound kind of courage. Heidegger might call it the courage to live in the not yet. If she remarries, she becomes the widow. Her identity is resolved, but it's also, sort of dead. By waiting, she remains Penelope.
She's holding a space for a reality that literally everyone else says is gone.
Yes. And that refusal leads directly to the political side of this. Because the suitors aren't just annoying guests. They are a political threat. And this is where Hannah Arendt and Simone de Beauvoir come in.
Okay, let's get to the shroud trick. This is the part everyone remembers from school. She tells the suitors, okay, I'll pick one of you. But first, I have to weave a burial shroud for my father-in-law.
Right, a very clever excuse. It plays right into their values. Oh, let me just do my womanly duty.
But then she weaves all day long where they can see her. And at night, she locks herself away and unpicks every single thread. For 3 years.
It's brilliant. Now, Hannah Arendt, the political theorist, she made this famous distinction between labor and action. And this is really the key to what Penelope's doing.
Okay, let's unpack that. Labor versus action.
So, labor, for Arendt, is the stuff you do just to stay alive. Cooking, cleaning. It's cyclical. You do the dishes, they get dirty, you do them again. Nothing new is created. It's maintenance.
And historically, that's where women were supposed to be.
Exactly. And action. Action is the power to start something new, to change the story. That's the world of politics, of debate, of war, the public world.
So weaving is usually just labor, it's a chore.
It's the definition of women's work.
Mm.
But Penelope, she hacks the system. By unweaving, she takes a domestic chore and turns it into a powerful political act. She isn't making a shroud, she's making time.
She suspended the logic of social coercion?
She did. She's using the camouflage of labor to perform action.
Yeah, yeah.
You could almost say she's filibustering the succession of the throne.
A textile filibuster, that's fantastic.
It is. She couldn't go out and give a speech, so she used the only tools she was allowed to touch to disrupt the entire system.
And that reminds me of what the notes say about Simone de Beauvoir, this idea of freedom versus constraints. Is a woman just defined by the roles society gives her?
And de Beauvoir would say, look, on the surface, Penelope is playing the role of faithful wife perfectly. But underneath, she is exercising conscious choice within these incredibly tight limits.
So freedom isn't always about, breaking the chains in public.
No. Sometimes freedom is about managing your constraints with intelligence. Her loyalty wasn't passive submission. It was an active strategy.
I really like that idea. Managing constraints with intelligence. It feels so relevant for anyone who feels stuck in a situation they can't just walk away from.
But we do have to talk about the cost of that, the sheer grinding weight of the repetition.
Yeah. 3 years. Weaving, unweaving, weaving, unweaving. The mental toll of undoing your own work every single night. Knowing you have to start over in the morning, it must have been staggering.
It is totally Sisyphean. Sisyphus in his rock, Penelope in her loom. But this is where a philosopher like Friedrich Nietzsche is so helpful with his idea of eternal recurrence.
That's a thought experiment, right? What if you had to live this life over and over again?
Exactly. Nietzsche asks, what if a demon told you, this life, you will live it again and again, innumerable times? Would you be crushed? Or could you embrace it?
And Penelope is living that loop every day.
She is. But she doesn't break. She actually uses that repetition as a weapon. For her, doing the same thing over and over is an act of will.
So the repetition isn't pointless. It's her shield.
Every night, she unpicks that shroud. She's screaming to the world, I will not be rushed. I will not be forced. And that changes how you think about time itself.
It's not just ticking off days on a calendar anymore.
Right. And that connects to the philosopher Henri Bergson, who talked about the difference between chronological time clocks, calendars, the number 20, and what he called duration.
Okay, duration. What's that?
Duration is our internal experience of time. For the suitors, it was just 20 years, a number. But for Penelope, inside that house, time wasn't a number. It was a single stretched out feeling, a continuous tension between hope and fear.
I think we've all felt that. When you're waiting for something important, it stops acting like a clock. It gets thick.
It stretches, exactly. And Penelope somehow mastered that. She inhabited the duration instead of just counting the days.
I want to shift gears a little to the sort of the internal, maybe even spiritual side of this. The notes bring up Carl Jung and, surprisingly, the Muslim philosopher Al-Ghazali.
It's a crossover you don't expect, but it fits perfectly. With Jung, you can look at the Odyssey not as the story of two people, but as two halves of a single psyche.
So Odysseus is one half, Penelope is the other.
Right. Odysseus is the exterior. He's the ego, the journey, the chaos. But a psyche can't just be chaos. It needs a center, a core. That's Penelope.
She's the anchor.
She's the one who preserves the identity of the whole. Without her, his journey is just meaningless wandering. He has nowhere to return to. She isn't his shadow. She's the condition for his completion.
That makes her role so much more critical. She's keeping the whole thing from falling apart. But what about this idea of patience from Al-Ghazali? Because, in English, patience sounds so passive.
It really does. It's a huge misconception. Al-Ghazali writes about Sebra patience, not as helplessness, but as a moqwa, a high station of consciousness.
The station of consciousness? That sounds way more active than just, waiting your turn.
It is. For Al-Ghazali, true patience, Saber, is the strength to control your will against the urge for a quick, easy fix. The human impulse is to just end the anxiety, even if it means a bad outcome.
So Penelope's patience is actually a constant battle against her own desire to just give in.
Exactly. Our source material describes it as long wakefulness. It's an active, alert state of waiting. She feels all the pain, but she doesn't surrender to it. It's a kind of spiritual stamina.
Long wakefulness. That's a beautiful phrase. It's like she's the one keeping watch while everyone else has given up.
Precisely. And that wakefulness is what pays off in the end. the climax. This is the part that proves the whole existential strategist theory.
When Odysseus finally comes home.
Yes. He comes back, he kills all the suitors, he's standing there looking like a beggar. And Penelope,
Mm-hmm.
she doesn't just fall into his arms,
Right. She tests him. She's skeptical. She tells a servant to move their marriage bed.
which is a trick. Because she knows, and only he would know, that the bed is carved from a living olive tree and can't be moved. This is the key moment. If she were just a passive victim, she'd have been desperate for any rescue. She would have believed the first guy who showed up.
But she's not desperate. She's sharp. She's critical.
The waiting didn't make her naive. The time of absence matured her. It gave her a critical distance. She is not the same young woman he left 20 years ago. She has her own power now.
She had to protect the very thing she'd spent 20 years building, that space for him.
The waiting didn't swallow her. It forged her. So when they finally reunite, it's not a hero rescuing a damsel in distress. It's two veterans of two different wars meeting on equal ground. He survived the war of space. She survived the war of time.
It totally reframes that ending. It's not, honey, I'm home. It's two survivors recognizing each other's strength.
And that really is the final synthesis here, the big comparison.
Odysseus versus Penelope.
Odysseus conquered the waves. He conquered space. He moved through the physical world. But Penelope? She conquered time.
She conquered that slow, grinding, erosive force of time.
Which is arguably the harder battle. Adrenaline gets you through a fight with a monster, but what gets you through 20 years of quiet waiting? What gets you through a chronic illness or a career that's stalled?
Yeah.
That requires a whole different kind of strength.
And that, I think, is where this connects to all of us. I mean, most of us aren't going to fight a Cyclops this week, but we are all waiting for something.
We are. Waiting for a diagnosis, waiting for a breakthrough, waiting for grief to pass.
And the question Penelope forces us to ask is, how do we inhabit that waiting?
Exactly. Is
So-
it just dead time? A
Oh.
void that swallows us? Or can we, like her, turn it into a space to reweave the self?
Can we use that time to become someone stronger, someone new?
The myth isn't glorifying a submissive woman. When you look at it this way, it offers a model for anyone refusing to be reduced by their circumstances. It shows us that silence can hide the deepest kind of resistance.
And that time isn't just something that happens to us. It's a material. Like the thread in her loom. We can choose to reweave it.
Beautifully put.
Well, that's definitely something to think about the next time you feel like you're just stuck waiting. You're not waiting. You're engaging in high-level existential strategy.
You're building your moquam of patience.
I love that. We'll leave it there for this deep dive. Thank you so much for listening.
Take care.